My name is Irma Wani Othman from Universiti Malaysia Sabah. The title of my presentation today is Malaysia's Sovereignty and National Security from External Threats, the issue of the entry of illegal immigrants and the emergence of COVID-19 cluster in Sabah. This paper explores the issue of Malaysia's sovereignty and national security from external threats associated with the entry of illegal immigrants and the emergence of COVID-19 cluster in Sabah. The context of the discussion focused on the proclamation made by the Yung Dipertuan Agong through a gazette to further enhance the action capacity of government enforcement in combating the COVID-19 pandemic by referring to directives under the Emergency, Essential Powers Ordinance, 2021 to maintain security, socio-economic life, or order civilians in the country from being threatened. In resolving public concerns, the thrust of this discussion's perspective is first, to identify the contributing factors of illegal immigrants' entry in Sabah, and secondly, to evaluate the impact of illegal immigrants' entry in Sabah in terms of political, economic, social, and local security. The qualitative approach utilizes secondary data content analysis methods, namely the results of research in journals, reports, books, and online news sources. Observations of the discussion are embroidered with the relevance of the National Security Council Act, known as Act 776, the application of the Immigration Act 1959/63 known as Act 155 and the Passport Act 1966 known as Act 150 and the Immigration Regulations 1963 to reduce the increment rate in the entry of illegal immigrants into the country. The security of a country is a key point to the development of that country. Malaysia is known as a peaceful and war-free country, however, there is no denying that the issue of accumulation of illegal immigrants is the hottest issue and difficult to curb in this country. There are often cases of forgery of important documents such as passports, identity cards, and birth certificates signed by those in charge of the registration or immigration department. It will disrupt the community-oriented system when these groups are still left to roam. The accumulation of criminal cases is increasing, causing the country to be looked down upon and damaging the country's reputation and image. Peace, prosperity, and political stability of the country are factors that attract the entry of illegal immigrants into the country. The National Security Council Act known as Act 776 established in 2016 was aimed at ensuring the defense of freedom from being colonized by any external superpower as well as avoiding exploiting the development of the country through non-governmental organizations. The existence of illegal immigrants has many effects on social, economic, political, and diplomatic relations and it also threatens national security. The government has made various efforts to address this issue, but every year the number of illegal immigrants in Malaysia increases. In general, this problem often gets the attention of the government and the local media, especially in relation to foreigners who do not pay attention to the existing laws used in Malaysia. Foreigners often disregard the law during the movement control order and this causes the government to be more assertive in implementing Ops Bentong to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The research methodology in this writing uses a qualitative approach based on social science disciplines. Qualitative approach refers to a research approach that requires careful observation of aspects of phenomenology that focuses on processes and events thematically, naturally, and independently based on information from various sources such as primary and secondary sources that utilizes secondary data content analysis methods that are the results of journal research, reports, books and online news sources. This approach emphasizes on law enforcement with discussion observations embroidered with the relevance of relevant acts. The social science discipline is relevant in the discussion of this paper to look at developments related to issues and challenges of Malaysian sovereignty and national security from external threats associated with the entry of illegal immigrants since the emergence of the COVID-19 cluster. One more thing. When discussing the research methodology of social science disciplines, then it is qualitative in nature blended with descriptive analytical discussion. Several important events that touch on issues and challenges of proclamation made by the Yung di Pertuan Agong through a gazette to further enhance the action capacity of government enforcement in combating the COVID-19 pandemic, where it refers to directives under the Emergency Ordinance Powers Necessary, 2021 in order to keep security, socio-economic life, or public order in the country from being threatened. Thus, in this writing, a literature review is used by collecting primary and secondary sources to enable facts to be explained based on issues associated with actual events that occurred. In resolving public concerns, the thrust of this discussion's perspective is firstly, to identify the contributing factors of illegal immigrants' entry in Sabah, secondly, to evaluate the impact of illegal immigrants' entry in Sabah in terms of political, economic, social, and local security, thirdly, to discuss the presence of illegal immigrants has had a huge impact on the state of Sabah in terms of politics, economy, social, and also the safety of locals, fourthly, to highlight the illegal immigrants increases congestion in detention centers, and lastly, to discuss the problem of prison management during pandemic times. On 1 September 2020, the Ministry of Health Malaysia has informed that a new cluster has been identified that originates from illegal immigrants. This identified cluster is known as Bentong LD cluster. This cluster was identified after COVID-19 screening was conducted on new detainees at the Lahad Datu District Police Headquarters Lockup, Sabah. The screening was conducted on 28 August 2020, involving 50 detainees, and it was found that 7 out of all detainees were COVID-19 positive. 6 of the 7 COVID-19 positive detainees were illegal immigrants and 1 was a Malaysian citizen. The illegal immigrant detainees involved were arrested during the Bentong operation carried out by the Malaysian Armed Forces and the Royal Malaysia Police on the rat route used by illegal immigrants to enter the country. Apart from that, the Bentong LD cluster case has caused everyone in the Lahad Datu District Police Headquarters lockup to have to undergo screening, and family members of the policemen involved also had to undergo screening and quarantine themselves until they receive the screening results. This is done to prevent the virus from spreading into the community. The Bentong LD cluster has also been one of the largest contributors to the increase in the number of positive cases in the country. In September 2020, another cluster case was identified in Sabah, which was called the Marine cluster. This cluster has been detected in Kunak, Sabah, which occurs among illegal immigrants. The cluster started from an illegal immigrant, a detainee, and being deported to his country of origin in the Philippines in August 2020, and the illegal immigrants infiltrated back to Sabah to visit his family using the rat route. As a result of this irresponsible attitude, the illegal immigrants who had contracted the COVID-19 virus had spread the virus to the families and neighbors. This matter has also caused concern in the community, but the authorities were managed to control this spread by controlling the movement of local residents and conducting screening on the close contact of the illegal immigrants. Most of the influx of illegal immigrants is based on several factors. Among them is the high exchange rate factors. Most of the illegal immigrants are from Indonesia and the Philippines. Foreign workers working in Sabah, whether they have a valid permit or not, mostly work in the 3D employment sector known as danger, difficult, and dirty. The income of foreign workers in Sabah is higher and lucrative than the income of neighboring countries. The wages rate offered in Malaysia is higher than the wages rate in Indonesia, which is 10 times higher. With the high exchange rate, it is certain that foreign workers will be attracted to work even in the 3D employment sector because they are more profitable if they use the money in their country of origin. While there are many job opportunities offered in Sabah, this has become one of the factors that attracts the entry of illegal immigrants. This is due to the declining involvement of locals in the 3D employment sector, danger, difficult and dirty, such as manufacturing, plantation, construction, etc. The issue of labor shortage in these employment sectors has forced employers to urge the state government to allow them to hire illegal foreign workers in order to accelerate the process of development and economic growth in Sabah. Foreign workers are also willing to work in this sector of employment offered because the income given is higher than in the country of origin. Apart from that, Sabah's strategic location, which is close to several neighboring countries, is also a source of illegal immigrants. Certain areas in Sabah only involve a 2-hour journey to reach the Philippine border by boat. Illegal immigrants from the Philippines can enter Sabah illegally through Taai Island, Bongao Island, or Satangkai Island. Illegal immigrants from Indonesia have the option to enter Sabah illegally by land or sea. The existence of a foreign-friendly state government policy has encouraged the entry of illegal immigrants. Malaysia is a country that adopts an open-door policy, and this has indirectly encouraged an increase in the number of foreign workers each year. Furthermore, the unstable situation in the country of origin should be considered as one of the factors of illegal immigrants' entry. Among them is the unstable political situation has resulted in the country of origin of the foreign workers to be backward and unable to increase economic growth. This will indirectly have caused job offers and opportunities to be limited. Therefore, foreigners in their country of origin will have to make a living in neighboring countries. For example, the war that took place in the Philippine Islands has resulted in rising of unemployment and poor economic growth. The Filipino citizen had to enter the state of Sabah without a valid permit to work in order to be able to meet the needs of family members. The presence of illegal immigrants has had a huge impact on the state of Sabah in terms of politics, economy, social, and also the safety of locals. The issue of foreigners is often related to problems that arise in a country. Among the effects that exist as a result of the entry of illegal immigrants is the outflow of state money to the country of origin of workers. Because the income that foreign workers earn in Malaysia is higher, workers usually send the money to their families in their country of origin. This is because a foreign immigrant, especially man as the head of the family, is responsible for earning a living in order to cover the cost of the needs of family members. The salary earned is intended to develop the economy in Malaysia. However, the money has been sent back to the country of origin of foreign workers and is indirectly increasing the economic growth of the foreign country. This issue will bring losses to Malaysia, especially the state of Sabah. This is because most employment sectors in Sabah practice the use of large numbers of foreign workers to perform manufacturing and so on. The total remittances sent to the country of origin of foreign workers was ringgit Malaysia 34.7 billion in 2015. That amount is the highest remittances. If this issue continues, the state of Sabah will experience financial problems in the future due to the increasing outflow of money. Furthermore, the influx of illegal immigrants will cause the problem of infectious diseases that will spread widely if not controlled. Foreigners who enter the state of Sabah without a permit or valid work document are more likely to carry a pre-existing disease from their country of origin because they do not undergo a health check when they come to Sabah. Examples of infectious diseases that may be carried by foreign immigrants are tuberculosis, AIDS, sexually transmitted diseases, HIV, and others. This issue is of great concern to local Sabahan because they have a high risk of contracting the disease through interactions between foreign workers working in factories or supermarkets, especially in the pandemic that hit the world, that is COVID-19. The most of the increase in COVID-19 cases in Sabah was due to the issue of the entry of large numbers of illegal immigrants. Most illegal immigrants share accommodation with other foreign workers and the accommodation is very crowded. If they do not strictly adhere to standard operating procedures, COVID-19 disease is easily spread to roommates, then to the workplace and finally to the local Sabah community. The spread of infectious diseases should not be underestimated by the government, as this will lead to deaths and increased health problems in the community. Apart from that, the issue of the influx of illegal immigrants has also increased the crime rate in Sabah. Many crimes that occurred in Sabah, especially urban areas, are caused by foreigners. For example, snatch theft cases, rape cases, murder, smuggling activities, and so on. For illegal immigrants who have just set foot in Sabah for the first time to work, most of them do not have much money. If they are unlucky and unable to find employment, they are forced to commit crimes such as snatching and robbery in order to be able to earn a living in Sabah due to lack of income, especially in the current situation of the COVID-19 pandemic. This issue will worry the locals as their safety is threatened and creates fear of getting out of the house. Furthermore, identity card forgery is one of the effects of the entry of illegal immigrants. This activity occurs when foreigners who do not have a valid permit wanted to work and settle down in Sabah but refused to follow the procedures and laws set by the state government. With this fake identity card, foreign workers can share various facilities provided for the local community of Sabah. For example, health facilities, education, services, and others. This document forgery activity not only involves foreigners but also the locals. Payments for illegal syndicates have to be made by foreigners to obtain such fake identity cards. The security and sovereignty of the country would be threatened if non-citizens used fake identity cards with citizen status. This will further encourage the entry of many illegal immigrants if this issue is not addressed. Even now, as we are in the season of the COVID-19 pandemic, the infiltration of illegal immigrants into the country is still an ongoing issue. Ops Bentong carried out by the National Security on the rat route used by illegal immigrants has succeeded in detaining many illegal immigrants who want to enter the country. All illegal immigrants who have been arrested will be taken to detention centers, and this has caused congestion in detention centers. At the same time, the overcrowding in detention centers has been one of the reasons for the rapid spread of the COVID-19 virus, and the virus is mostly carried by illegal immigrants when they entered the country. According to Inmate Management Division, almost all prisons across the country have experienced overcrowding. The prisons that have experienced this congestion are mainly prisons in the East Coast, namely Sabah, Terengganu, Klang Valley, and Kelantan. These prisons were overcrowded because the number of detainees in the prison has exceeded 50% of the total capacity that has been set. Overcrowding in these prisons have also resulted in several COVID-19 clusters and resulted the staff in the prisons involved having to constantly carry out COVID-19 screening from time to prevent the virus from further spreading in prisons. The overcrowding in detention centers has led the government to reduce the number of detainees in a detention center. This should be done to reduce congestion and to be able to create social distancing among inmates to prevent the spread of COVID-19 virus in a detention center. Among the measures taken by the government to reduce overcrowding in detention is to create satellite prisons. The satellite prison is a detention center for new inmates committing minor offenses, and a place for inmates to undergo COVID-19 screening. In addition to satellite prisons, the government also implements the Licensed Release of Prisoners program, which is an earlier release of inmates to reduce congestion in detention centers. The increasingly overcrowded detention centers have also forced the government to have discussions with the countries of origin of the detained illegal immigrants, such as the Philippines and Indonesia, in relation to their citizens who have been detained for deportation to their countries of origin. The government has ensured that illegal immigrants who wish to be deported are free of the COVID-19 virus so as not to cause concern to their country of origin to accept them back. In June 2020, the government has successfully negotiated with the country of origin of detained illegal immigrants to send them back to their country of origin. The countries involved, namely, the Philippines and Indonesia, have agreed to accept their return. The government has successfully deported nearly 3,000 Filipino illegal immigrants and about 1,500 Indonesian detainees. The increase in the number of illegal immigrants detained during this pandemic has forced the government to bear high expenses. Among the costs that have to be borne by the government is the expense of conducting COVID-19 screening on detained illegal immigrants. In May 2020, the government has spent ringgit Malaysia 4.3 million on COVID-19 screening. The total screening expenditure has involved a total of 14,496 illegal immigrants who were detained. The estimated cost for a detainee is ringgit Malaysia 3,000, forcing the government to bear the cost of ringgit Malaysia 4.3 million. In addition, the government will also have to bear the cost of treatment for detainees confirmed to be infected with the COVID-19 virus. Apart from the cost of COVID-19 screening, the government also bears the cost to provide food supply and shelter for the illegal immigrants. The cost of food supply for these illegal immigrants has to be borne by the government as long as the detainees are in detention centers before they are sent back to their respective countries. Within a day, detainees would be fed 4 times, causing the government to bear the high spending costs. One of the effective ways to deal with the spread of COVID-19 outbreaks in prisons is to establish standard operating procedures. This is because the number of inmates in the prison is not small, therefore the SOP must be set, and the SOP must also be appropriate to the prison conditions. For the SOP of the prison, it is better if each inmate is controlled and monitored to always maintain the distance between inmates. This is very important to ensure that inmates do not come into contact with other inmates. This will reduce the risk of inmates being infected with the COVID-19 virus. In addition, inmates should also be required to always maintain personal hygiene by cleaning themselves and always use hand sanitizer to ensure that COVID-19 virus can be eliminated. With that, the prison authorities should also segregate inmates. Segregation of inmates is one of the most effective measurements. Unfortunately, this segregation was not performed on those with symptoms of COVID-19, even though this will be able to curb COVID-19 outbreaks from spreading. Not only that, the segregation of old and new inmates should also be done. This segregation should be more for the new inmates who have just been put in prison. This is because the risk for newly admitted inmates to become carriers of the COVID-19 virus is extremely high. Due to that, it is better to segregate the old and new inmates. Coming back to the segregation of inmates by category, the segregation of inmates is very important to be done during this pandemic because we can take lessons from what has happened in Kapayan prison in Sabah. The Kapayan prison cluster has recorded cases of COVID-19 infection up to 3 figures in a day. Among the contributors to this is the case of imports from abroad that have just been admitted to the prison. It is also very relevant that these outsiders are one of the carriers of the COVID-19 virus into the prison because we will not know the places they have visited and definitely they have gone to different places. In addition, it would be better to monitor closely the movement of every officers working the prison. This is to ensure that they do not bring in the COVID-19 virus. Not only that, every prison officer should also constantly check their health. This is to ensure that they are not increasing the risk as COVID-19 virus carrier in prison while on duty. With continuous health check UPS, the positive impact will definitely be seen and the risk of COVID-19 virus transmission will definitely be reduced. Not only that, the prison authorities should not underestimate the preparation of food. The prison authorities should also ensure that the food supply provided in the prison is taken from a reliable source and not in close proximity to areas with high COVID-19 cases. Currently, the influx of illegal immigrants in Sabah is increasing and the government should take this issue seriously by determining measures to address this worrying problem. Among the measures that can be done by the government is to tighten control on the coast, especially in Sabah. This is because Sabah is one of the strategic locations and easily traversed illegally by foreigners from neighboring countries such as the Philippines and Indonesia. Several authorities, especially the Royal Malaysian Navy and the Marine Operations Force, need to work together to overcome this problem. Areas that serve as places of passage for illegal immigrants should be identified as soon as possible by the authorities in order to further strengthen monitoring and patrolling around the area. The next step is to punish locals who engage in smuggling of illegal foreign workers. The illegal immigrants are usually assisted by a tekong, a person who arranges land and sea routes illegally. Punishment should be given to remind locals of the consequences of helping and smuggling illegal immigrants. Punishment should also be given to individuals who sell fake identity documents to illegal immigrants. Severe punishment should be implemented to teach a lesson to locals. In the absence of individuals such as tekong to organize routes, the entry of illegal immigrants into Sabah will be difficult. In addition, the Ministry of Home Affairs needs to increase patrols in areas known as landing points so that these areas can be monitored to arrest illegal immigrants. A total of 37 landing points has been identified through Operation Bentong, which started operating on 21 March 2020. Through more frequent and rigorous monitoring, arrests can be carried out more easily. Illegal immigrants will be detained and subsequently sent back to their country of origin. Locals can also play a role by reporting the issue of illegal immigrants to the authorities so that action can be taken immediately to address the influx of such groups. In addition, Malaysia, especially the state of Sabah, is heavily dependent on the recruitment of foreigners in certain fields of employment such as manufacturing, plantation, and so on. Illegal immigrants have crossed the border into Sabah illegally due to several factors, namely high currency exchange, many jobs offer, Sabah's strategic location, as well as the insecure and unstable state of origin. Although foreigners are able to improve the development process of the country and Sabah, they also cause many problems that threaten locals, especially in terms of economy and security. All levels of society need to work together to combat the issue of entry of illegal immigrants so that the harmony and security of Sabah can be guaranteed. Thank you.